Great. So, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This coffee hour is being recorded for those who couldn't be here today and for those who are here. And if you'd like to review anything that we cover, you can find this and all of our coffee hours, along with recordings of workshops, certification help, newsletter previews, and more on our YouTube channel. If you just search YouTube for Sustainable CT, you'll find us there. And we'll also put the link in the chat, just there now. You can also find a direct link to our YouTube channel and our monthly newsletter, the Actions and Impact. A link to all of our newsletters is in the chat. As you've registered for this coffee hour today, you probably already receive our newsletter, but if you don't, please do check it out. We try to keep it really fun and informative. You can easily subscribe at sustainablect.org by clicking the sign up button at the very bottom of the page. And while you're at sustainablect.org, be sure to check out this month's episode of The Impact, a Sustainable CT podcast. New episodes are available on the 15th of every month on our website, on YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. This month's episode celebrates the Community Match Fund surpassing the $5 million mark. Since its creation in 2019, the Sustainable CT Community Match Fund has invested over $5 million in more than 400 community-led projects in 88 Connecticut municipalities. You can read all about it in our press release. In this month's episode of The Impact, we hear from our founder, Lynn Stoddard, about the origins of the Community Match Fund, and from project leaders Annie Gettner and Tom Martin, who have done remarkable things with the support of the program, as well as Summer Mitchell, who is a Sustainable CT program assistant and the Community Match Fund coordinator. She took a turn in the host chair. So please do listen, get inspired, and maybe even think about starting a community match fund project in your own community. We also want to thank everyone for helping us spring into summer. This past week, we held our 2026 Spring into Summer celebration at the Hillstead Museum in Farmington. And it was a stellar event, thanks to everyone who participated, the towns and cities, the sponsors, the exhibitors, the project leaders, the speakers, everyone who was there. In addition to the speeches, there was great conversations and networking. It was truly a great event. And let's not forget why we were there in the first place. Congratulations once again to our spring certified communities, the bronze certified towns of Bloomfield, Branford, Clinton, Cromwell, and Westbrook, as well as the silver certified Bridgeport, Preston, and Woodbridge. Keep up the great work, and we're looking forward to seeing you all at our annual awards celebration in the fall. If you missed the event, we have a video recording of the formal programming on our YouTube channel if you'd like to check it out. Okay, now with all of that out of the way, I'll turn it over to Deb and Sarah from CT Sea Grant and the Long Island Sound Partnership based out of Yukon.
Hi, thanks so much, Lily. We're so excited to be here today and to share a little bit more about our programming with the Long Island Sound Partnership through Connecticut Sea Grant, and also discuss the connections with Sustainable CT and how we can help advance all of the wonderful work going on throughout the state. My name's Deba Bibu. I'm on the Sustainable and Resilient Communities team of Long Island Sound Partnership, and I'm based out of the Western Connecticut region. And I'm joined here today by Sarah Schechter, who you'll hear from in a few minutes. And on our team, she covers the Eastern Connecticut region. So today we'll start with giving you a little bit of background on the Long Island Sound Partnership, and then share more specifically some of the programming and technical assistance and financial assistance that we offer through Sustainable and Resilient Communities. And a little bit as we go, and then we'll have a little bit of a more deep dive into some specific sustainable CT actions that relate to our program, in that we can assist through some of our programming. And we will have a good amount of time at the end for questions and answers. So feel free to put questions in the chat as we go, and then we can get to them at the end. So the Long Island Sound is fed by a watershed that goes all the way up through New England to Canada. And through this region, we work with many partners. And the goal of our partnership is to protect and restore Long Island Sound. Um, there's areas of focus, including clean waters and healthy watersheds, habitats and wildlife, sustainable and resilient communities, and engaging the public. So the organizations are represented here on the screen. And just for a little bit of background, like the partnership is funded through the Clean Water Act, and it is one of many national estuary programs. Ours is run by EPA through the Long Island Sound office, and they work with these various entities to administer the program funds each year. And so the the work that we do is largely funded through different types of grants. You've probably heard of the Long Island Sound Futures Fund. There's also the Community Impact Fund. There's research grants. And what we'll be talking about today are the SRC, short for Sustainable and Resilient Communities, assistance programs. All of our work is guided by the Comprehensive Conservation and Management Plan. And we recently updated this plan in 2025. So this plan has four main goal areas that you can learn more about. And as I mentioned, the one that we'll be talking about today is sustainable and resilient communities. So our goal is to empower Long Island Sound communities to plan for and respond to environmental challenges in ways that prioritize well-being for all. We're composed of a team of 6 extension professionals, and we're each covering a region all around the Sound. Our programming is focused on what we call the coastal boundary. But so some of our like our funding type resource programs, the projects would have to be in that region to be eligible. But we do have some connections with programs and other things throughout the watershed, since the Long Island Sound Partnership is concerned with the whole watershed. So if you're not in that region, don't be discouraged. There's a lot that that's relevant. So my first poll is being a little cranky. So I'm going to see if I can pull up just a different, it's my browser really quick. So I would like to see where people are from. So you can scan the QR code there with your phone, or go to menti.com and type in that number. Oops. Let's see. Starting to see some pins. I think there's a little bit of a delay. See if I refresh it. There's more coming in. Great. So I'm seeing folks from Hartford, from the New Haven area, Bridgeport area, Naugatuck, some folks in the Connecticut River area. We got Southeastern represented. We got some Northern and Capital region. Great, nice spread here. And looks like just about everybody has responded. Wonderful. Thanks y'all for sharing. That helps us get a sense of who's here. I'm gonna flip back over. Presentation. Mhm. So our SRC goal is broken out into three main objectives. Um, Sarah,
Yeah, I can start from here now. That's
okay, I'll pass it over to you.
okay, sounds good. Thank you. When we were looking earlier at the SRC team, there's the six of us, and our main goal that we are focusing on is to empower the Long Island Sound communities to plan for and respond to environmental challenges in a way that prioritize well-being for all, which we touched on a little bit earlier. And so with that, we have these three objectives that go towards that specific goal. So the objectives are to focus on increasing the capacity of decision makers to advance initiatives, supporting resilience planning that reflects community priorities, and encouraging the implementation of projects that help communities adapt to flooding and other environmental impacts. And each objective has different actions under it. Not to be confused with the actions under Sustainable CT, but these are specifically SRC actions and other supporting activities. And um, and this is kind of what fuels our work and the different programs and projects that we support and connect with. Next slide, please. So this is the second and third objective and these are some of those actions that we focus in on. I won't go through all of them specifically, and we'll be able to share some materials out that can direct you right into them. But when we're looking at projects that we can support or work that we're doing on our own or with our team, this is the type of work that we're hoping to support. So for example, we look at SRC 2-1 is to develop plans, which would be climate resilience plans and strategies and getting those into existing municipal, regional, and watershed plans. But again, I won't go through all of them right now, but this is all available in that CCMP, which I did link in the chat as well a little bit earlier. Next slide, please. Oh, I do see a question. Lily, are we able to take questions throughout? Just want to double check.
Of course, whatever works best
Okay.
for you.
Perfect. Yeah. Hi, Kathy.
Hi, happy to wait if you'd rather just go through your presentation.
No, totally fine, especially if it's related on what we're talking about now. I don't want to get too far and then get lost with the question.
Okay, so I had been studying this and I wasn't sure like what is objective one, and it was saying that that was something that was going to be left more to other folks like the COGS and not really for nonprofits to engage in. Is that correct, or was I just kind of misreading that? But when you brought up only the objective 2 and objective 3, it reminded me of that I had a question when I was originally looking at the updated work
I can
plan.
see the confusion there. Yeah, absolutely. And Deb, feel free to jump in as well with this. But
Sure.
basically, you can go first. Yeah.
So we're highlighting 2 and 3 because those are the ones specifically that for our funding programs that we're looking for applicants to align with.
Okay.
Objective 1 is still there for any other Long Island Sound Partnership related work. So, that all, like if somebody's working on Futures Fund or research projects and things, we have some just more targeted types of projects that we're looking for the programs that we're going to describe.
Okay.
Thank you because I'm sure that wasn't only you wondering about it.
Okay.
And I also see a question in the chat from CJ. asking about if we focus specifically on like only general resilience or if we're focused in on waters and waterways. Absolutely, there we want to focus on resilience that relates to the watershed as a whole as well, and so water and waterways come into that. And so hopefully that answers the question. If you have anything to follow up, please feel free to put some more in the chat, or feel free to raise your hand as we continue on. Okay, so moving on. So in the work that we're doing, we have this 5-year work plan that we've developed, and it puts together all of those objectives that we're focusing in on. And this is a graphic that kind of shows how we're like fueling the work. Everything's very interconnected, which I'm sure you can tell from all of the arrows going back and forth. But looking at the top, we have this needs assessment, and so this is kind of what fueled the beginning of the SRC program, really getting to know what folks were looking for, what was really necessary, and how we could best serve the communities and community groups that we're connecting with now. And that this is a really like an ongoing process, and so very much continuing to make sure that we are meeting people where they're at and continuing to get projects from that beginning thought process of what are we going to do all the way to just trying to make sure that we can put things together along the way and support in whatever way we can. But this is how all of those objectives can fit together into this entire sustainable and resilient communities goal. And again, we can provide some more information directly on how everything fits together, but I don't want to get too far into the weeds about all of those specifics. So next slide, please. Thank you. I do see another chat question. But must water and waterways be the highest priority? So yeah, and Deb, I'm not sure if you're able to see the chat as well, but this one says, but must water and waterways be the highest priority, or can extreme heat and other resilience issues be a part of it? We are able to focus on a wide range of resilience. Water and waterways are not the only priority that we focus on. And there is also that other goal of clean water and healthy watersheds, which can draw into some of those sides of water as well. But yeah, water is not the only place that we focus.
Since our funding comes from the Clean Water Act, all of our work is going to have to relate to surface waters that feed into the Long Island Sound. So there can be some indirect work, but there has to be a connection there.
Yeah.
Okay. Sarah, I might suggest that we go through with the presentation and maybe take the questions at the end.
Okay. I was just going to note that someone is requesting the slides be a little bit larger. I'm not sure if we're able
I think the graphic on the previous slide was smaller because it wasn't really developed for a PowerPoint. So sorry about that, but I can't make the slides larger.
Okay. Cool. Well, we can continue on then. Yes, I agree. I don't want to get stuck on all the questions. I know we're limited on time here. So these are some of the actions that most clearly align with the SRC goal. And this is speaking specifically to those sustainable CT actions that we're kind of here to talk about today. There are others that could be supported depending on more of the specifics of them, but these are more of the clear targeted spaces where with the new CCMP and the development of the SRC 5-year work plan that we saw some alignment. And a lot of them fall into the dynamic and resilient planning category. So this is under, we have Action 3, which is well-stewarded land and natural resources, with 3.8 specifically, 5 with being dynamic and resilient planning, which is 5.1, 5.2, 5.4, 5.7, 5.9, and 5.10. And then 8 with inclusive engagement, communication, and education, specifically looking at 8.6. And we'll go into a little bit more on some of them a little bit later in the presentation. And I believe we have a poll coming up next.
Okay, you guys have to bear with me for just another second while I switch over. Next question. Okay, so you should now be able to use the QR code or type in the numbers that you see to menti.com. And this is referring to the actions we just discussed. we were curious to know which ones your municipality is interested in, maybe interested in. It's not a commitment.
Does it have to be your municipality? Can it be your nonprofit?
Yes.
Yes. Mhm.
I was wondering the same thing, actually. Um,
Um,
yeah.
yes, thanks for clarifying. I I wasn't sure who all the audience would be here, so I will broaden that.
Also, it's only letting me select one at a time. Like,
Oh,
select the second one, then it takes the first one off.
okay. I swear on the back end, I told it to allow multiple selection. All right, Menti is fighting with me a bit today. Okay, well, being that I might not be able to capture more than one at a time, I guess we're seeing your top ones. I'll give people just another couple seconds. Great. Seeing a lot of interest in climate vulnerability assessments, um, and then planning and implementing the climate solutions and some collaboration. Great. Thank you all.
They
Get
just
us back to our presentation.
All right, so
Okay.
a lot of the information that we've put together, we've compiled it onto the Long Island Sound Resilience Resource Hub. If you use the QR code, you should be able to access it, or you can just type into your browser www.lislis, which resilience.org. And this is a great way to be able to see all of the information that we're going to talk about. And if we go on to the next slide, I'll get into a little bit more about the specifics. So we have a funding database. Always good to see funding information in one spot. So we have these filters available. So if you're looking for something specific, if it's about green infrastructure, or you want to have a specific area you're focused in, or the planning phase, if you're doing planning or implementation, we try to go through, and when we're putting funding sources onto here, really narrow it down so that when you're selecting out those categories, you end up with the different funding opportunities or programs that best align with the funding source you're trying to get and with the project you're trying to do. We also have those countdowns in the corner, which help you to get a better idea of how far out you are from that due date, and hopefully be able to plan accordingly. Next slide, please. So with this, we also have on the, and we'll go into, I'm going to go into a little bit more about the specifics on this, but a program that we've developed and is available on that Resilience Resource Hub, if you end up clicking on that to follow along, is our Breaking Down Barriers program. So this was developed in response to that original needs assessment I talked about a little while ago. And basically understanding that funding can be a major barrier for community groups, nonprofits, community and municipalities in general. Just finding funding can be really tough, and being able to actually be awarded that funding can be even tougher at times. And so we developed a couple of programs that we have under this Breaking Down Barriers umbrella. And so this is funded by EPA through the Long Island Sound Partnership. It's for municipalities, nonprofits, community organizations, and we have a planning support program and a grant writing assistance program. And these are offered across Connecticut and New York within our respective regions. The graphic on the right, I know it might be a little bit small, but it is also available on the website so that you can look at it a little bit more in depth, and hopefully be able to find the exact program that's going to be best for you. Next slide, please. So starting with our grant writing assistance program, This was launched back in 2022 with the main goal of being able to help communities secure grant funding. We describe it kind of as a grant for a grant. And so, but our process way easier than all of the pages and pages you have to fill out for all the grants that come up. And so we can offer just under $10,000 to a contractor of your choosing. And this can be done no match, nothing on your side required except for just filling out that form, and making sure that the project you want to do aligns with that Comprehensive Conservation and Management Plan, or CCMP, as it's written in the chat. And this can support that narrative development, cost benefit analysis, mapping, application preparation, a lot of those things that can be really tough when you don't have all the time or capacity or background to be able to do that. Or if you're just looking for a little bit of help along the way, you got too many grants you're trying to apply for all at once, and you need a little bit of support. Next slide, please. So all of those green markers on there are the programs that we've supported so far. We've done 45 grant proposals since it started back in 2022. We've had a 32% success rate. So all of those 32% of the applications that were submitted to those grant programs came back with being able to receive funding. So that's awesome. And this is just, again, reminding you that there's no match. And I don't think I mentioned before, but it is open on a rolling basis. So there's not a specific timeline that you have to adhere to. As long as we have funds available, we can provide them to you for that grant writing assistance. Next slide, please. So then our planning support program. So this was developed after we were talking to people and realized that a lot of people might not be ready to write a grant yet. And there's a lot of that prep work that goes into it. And so we launched the planning support program back in 2023. And this supports more of that early stage planning, scoping, and some of the things we offer through that have been vulnerability assessments, watershed and resilience plans, flood studies, conceptual designs, et cetera, all on the slide there. But it's not limited to these specific items. This is just what we've been able to support so far, and among other things. And so we're continuing to learn all the new things and that people want to do, and being able to support them as long as they align with that CCMP. Next slide. So these are the examples of the programs that the projects that we've supported so far. I know everyone here is probably a little bit more focused on that Connecticut side. If you look at the purple dots, those are the New York ones. This is, again, no match required. This is more focused on the planning, design, and scoping. So far, we've had 3 rounds. We're in the 3rd round right now of doing our selections and bidding on it. But in that first year, we had just over $1 million that was awarded to 15 communities across the Long Island Sound region. Round 2, which is those teal and purple dots, that was, again, right around $1 million awarded to 16 communities. And then in round 3, which we've had now, we have $1.5 million available, and are excited to be able to get that out the door and start those projects with those communities. Next slide. So this is just a couple of examples, and that QR code is going to lead you to our awards page. And it's also in the chat. Thank you, Deb, for that. So these are just a couple of the projects that we've been able to support so far. The 2 on the left are from our first round. The one on the right is currently in progress from our 2nd round. And so with the Groton Long Point Association, we were able to fund priority project conceptual designs, and that was focused on stormwater system improvement, relocation of public safety facilities, construction of additional shoreline protection, wave attenuation, and building elevation in line with current and future flood plain projections. The one in the middle is with the Alliance of the Mystic River Watershed. They were looking to do a vulnerability assessment for that watershed. And so with that, it was able to include input from municipalities within that area, other local organizations, and also had input from the Mashantucket and Eastern Pequot tribal nations. And so definitely a wide variety of people who were able to contribute to that, and a lot of great information that we're hopefully being able to share out soon as well from that one. And then the one on the right is with the town of Branford, and that's with the Water Pollution Control Facility Resilience Project, and that's their phase 2. So they're working on feasibility and conceptual designs for that facility. And so this one is currently in progress, and really excited to see how that continues on. Next slide, please. So when we think about the planning support program projects, this kind of, if you click again, yeah, perfect, thank you. This falls under that 5-4 which is to assess climate vulnerability. Again, thinking back, there was the vulnerability assessment that was done for the Alliance for the Mystic River Watershed on that previous slide. And again, things can fall under a lot of different spots in the actions that are on this slide and in the other actions that Sustainable CT has, but we really just want to highlight some of the specific connections that we found. So we would have highlighted 5.4, just being able to get those programs in for vulnerability assessments. Next slide, please. And so in general, we really look at this idea as a pipeline. And so really moving projects from that idea and need space all the way over to implementation. And we can see that it helps to build readiness for that next step along the way. We did find that there were some common stalling points, which happened between the idea and need, or between planning and scoping, or planning and scoping and grant writing. So that's where we developed the planning support and grant writing assistance programs to help move you along in the process. And so this is just the ways that we've been able to help support along the way. And we are continuing, as I said, to assess needs and make sure that our programs are doing the best that they can to support you in your programs and projects. Next slide, please. So I want to talk about another project, which I believe that some people in this Zoom room might be a little bit familiar with, but it's relatively new in Connecticut. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Next slide, please. And so it's MyCoast. I forgot to say the name. MyCoast, Connecticut. So MyCoast, Connecticut, and if you click one more time, perfect, is something that has the potential to fall under Action 5.9, which is related to the National Flood Insurance Program's community rating system. And I'm going to go into a little bit more about the program, and then we can come back to kind of how it relates into all of that. So MyCoast is an app-based tool that is used to capture photos of flooding, storm damage, and high tide events within communities. And if you go to that little QR code there, or you type in mycoast.org/CT, you'll be able to check out the database and learn a little bit more about the program outside of this, but I'll go into a little bit more right now. And it's also in the chat as well, just for your reference. Next slide. So we're using MyCoast as a way to raise public awareness of local flooding and storm preparedness, and basically just trying to understand where these hotspots are happening. Where is it flooding all the time? What's going on? And how can we best inform planners and decision makers to figure out how to allocate resources? And we're also being able to monitor changes in the shoreline and just get a better idea of what's flooding, how often, and how can we best support communities in that? And also, how can communities best support themselves, and where do they need to allocate those resources? And we're focused in on capturing images of storm damages and high tides as of right now. Next slide, please. So as of right now, MyCoast is specifically offered in Groton, New London, Stonington, and Brantford. I've been partnering with the Connecticut Institute for Resilience and Climate Adaptation, or CIRCA, as you might know it as, and the Connecticut National Estuarine Research Reserve, or CTNR, on a grant project that was funded by the Long Island Sound Futures Fund. And so we've been targeting the three communities of Groton, New London, and Stonington. And Brantford has their own little pocket of MyCoast that they have self-funded through their town allocation. And with this, we've learned a lot along the way. There's been a lot of interest in the three communities that we've been supporting, as well as other communities as well. And so with that, we're working on a statewide expansion, which is hopefully going to start as of spring 2027. Now, I think that MyCoast can turn a couple people off from the idea of what the coast is. But with Connecticut being a coastal state, we are able to assess how flooding is impacting the riverine areas. We're looking at stormwater flooding. So we can see those photos that are available up, or all of the dots on the border where people have submitted photos from. So obviously there's a strong concentration along the coastal area with looking at high tides and storms and everything that comes from that with flooding. But as we look a little bit further up, right now we're seeing some people have marked off dots near like Waterbury, Hartford, over in Danbury. And so we're hoping that we can continue to fill up the map and get a little bit more information on flooding. And I will note too that this program, MyCoast, is offered in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and New York. So we're surrounded by a lot of people capturing a lot of data on flooding. And I'm hoping that as we continue on, it will be successful in being able to bring this statewide. And as of right now, it is only offered in those for communities. But if you are interested, we're able to have a little bit of flexibility with our contract to hopefully bring it to you a little bit sooner than spring of 2027. So if you are interested in that, please reach out to the email that Deb put in the chat, or it's also listed on the slide. And I'm happy to connect with you on that and see if we can start working a little bit sooner. Next slide, please. This is I'm going to give you a couple quick examples of some of the reports that people have sent in. So this is the Groton Long Point police station. And obviously, when we see critical infrastructure and facilities, we don't want to see flooding there. And so this is a great way to understand how the area is being impacted and get a better idea of what's happening and how we need to respond to it. Whenever photos are taken, they have a little geolocation marker, and any of the it gets connected to a NOAA flood tide gauge. On this one specifically, we can see that the data is from the West Mystic River, and it shows you the most recent tide, where we're at in that cycle, and then also all the other weather information. So this can be helpful for planning purposes as well, and to get a better idea of what's happening in that moment, and also how we can understand how it could be affected in future storms and other high tide events. Next slide, please. And this is another one specifically on Pearl Street in Mystic. We are seeing those cars being a little bit flooded and a little impacted there. This would not be fun to drive through, obviously. And it also notes at the top, you can see that the little bar has turned orange, and it's saying it's specifically 44 minutes after high tide. And so we're just able to see how quickly that has been impacted and that area. So and if we're thinking in the future about those potential tides, we can see that was right around a 3-foot predicted water level, and it sat right around there as well with that little yellow or orange dot. So I won't go too much further into that, but I do see a couple things in the chat coming up, so we'll be able to come back to that. And if you have any more questions, feel free to drop them in, and we'll return to conversations about MyCoast. But I will turn it over to Deb for some more connections.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, and stay tuned, because there may be some opportunities, in the future for MyCoast to be integrated, further into some actions. We wanted to take a little bit of a deeper dive into the new climate resilience action. So that is 510 here. And this is a new action this year that we helped Sustainable CT with developing. So it has 4 components. The first is about educating residents on climate resilience, then planning for climate resilience measures, implementing those measures, and 4th is adopting a policy or ordinance to support climate resilience. And you can find the full action details, as always, on Sustainable CT's website. So looking at this first component, the description highlights educating residences or businesses in your community about climate resilience, and suggests ways, venues for this, like your website, other types of channels, and events that were in the past 3 years. Science-based, informational resources are suggested. There's many available on our resource hub that we highlighted earlier. For example, there's some mapping tools, a new one through the Connecticut insurance program that can really get to a fine level of resolution. As far as our programming, our main actions that we focus on here, like some of this education component could fall under our planning support or grant writing assistance, and there's a little asterisk, because for the SRC actions that we've highlighted, they are more on like the community engagement and community decision-making side of things. So if your education has a strong community engagement component or is about increasing the co-decision-making with your community, then it could fall under that 4-hour programming. For education work, there's a lot of other partnership programs like through Futures Fund and the Community Impact Fund, if you have a bigger education project in mind. Oh yes, and then I also mentioned our resource hub. And MyCoast is a tool for education in many ways as well, or could be. You could choose to use those photos, for example, to help illustrate the impacts to your community. So getting next to the planning portion, the goal here is to develop and adopt a municipal plan that's focused on climate resilience. So this could be just its own standalone plan. It could be something that is incorporated into another plan, like your plan of conservation and development, as long as it is substantial enough to meet the criteria. Or it could be a subcomponent of a larger regional plan. For example, there's some multi-town ones that came about after Sandy. It is required to have inclusion of a climate vulnerability assessment. So you can refer back to Action 5.4. And it should identify specific mitigation or climate adaptation strategies. And nature-based solutions are strongly encouraged. And there's an encouragement to use the PERSIST criteria. And so that's something you'll see linked in the chat. So this is a criteria developed by Circa. It's also used by DEEP. And then we have a second link that asks questions that help a project relate more specifically to like the Long Island Sound themes. Next, your plan should include an implementation component, meaning how do you plan to implement? So what are the cost estimates and/or funding strategies, prioritization of those measures, and alternatives. So, for example, there might be a couple of projects in mind for how best to solve a flooding problem. And then this information could help set up the next steps. And finally, consider adaptive management. So include a timeline for when you're going to reevaluate this plan, how you're going to monitor your progress and make adjustments. So both our planning support and grant writing assistance programs would squarely fall into supporting this component. Next, for implementation. So this can include projects that have been done in the last 3 years. They can be collaborations with other municipalities. And there's more potential examples on Sustainable CT's website. I highlighted a few that would be more clearly eligible for our SRC programs for support through them. So again, this could go through our planning support or grant writing assistance. So we fund more of that early stage preliminary planning, scoping, feasibility, earlier design. It could include project leading towards like habitat restoration or protection from flooding. Can include infrastructure upgrades or even removals or the installation of nature-based solutions. So we've seen things like living shorelines, green infrastructure. It can include riparian buffers. And these are, it's not limited to here, just sharing some examples. And then the fourth component is about adopting a municipal policy or ordinance to support climate resilience in your community. So some suggested examples are requiring stormwater capture through green stormwater infrastructure or permeable pavement, increasing freeboard requirements, allowing, like your building codes to accommodate flood resilient design, restricting development in certain high risk areas, or perhaps requirements about vegetation in new developments that could help manage stormwater or heat. So our planning support program could potentially support this, and the caveat here is that our funds can't be used to directly develop laws, policies, or regulations, but we can support projects that can inform their development. So, for example, a candidate project for a planning support program right now is to update New Haven's coastal program. So, that will result in some recommendations. So that's what I mean by that kind of indirect versus direct. Okay, those are those are the aspects that we wanted to highlight for the connections between our programs and the sustainable CT actions. And Lily, let me turn it back to you for going through some Q&A.
Amazing. Thank you. So just looking in the chat, I think CJ, you had the first question, so feel free to come off mute, or I'm also happy to read it out if that's preferable.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm sorry, I didn't remember which question. I think you answered the question that is this generally resilience, or is this resilience really relating to water and water bodies that feed to Long Island Sound? And it sounds like you're really looking at water-related resilience. You can give me a thumbs up or a thumbs up if that's indeed the focus. Good. That all makes sense.
Right.
And I'm not sure if you were talking about the second question. I'm sorry. I can't even remember what my second question was now. Um, but what about outreach and education efforts? Are those considered part of our community's resilient work? We're inland, for instance, Waterbury here, but one of the things I've been doing recently is actually doing in my environmental magic show in the schools to show the kids that they are related to Long Island Sound, and that if they litter on the ground here, the littering on the ground in Waterbury can make its way into the rivers, and from the rivers it gets down to the Long Island Sound. And I even use Nemo as an example, and that if Nemo is going to have gross and disgusting stuff coming to him if we don't take care of our neighborhoods. And so the kids clean up the neighborhood, quote unquote, during the show, and then the water becomes clean again. But I don't know whether that stuff specifically or in general is something that's important to be supported through your program.
So there is a big push to expand a lot of the educational work through the upper watershed. It's just through some of my colleagues' programming. So you're going to want to look for like the Long Island Sound Teacher Mentor Program, the Long Island Sound Futures Fund, and the Long Island Sound Community Impact Fund are going to include the focus more directly on education, whereas our programs, we can include it if it's like kind of part of a planning or implementation that's designed to increase the engagement of the community.
Sure. Okay, thank you. If we get going further, then I'll check in with you guys. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Then I also saw Mary, you had a few questions in the chat as well. Just wanted to make sure they were answered. If you have anything else that you would like to ask to the group, feel free to come off mute and do the same.
Me, Mary, from
Yes, just wanted to make sure you got your questions answered.
Well, I have to say, it's we've worked for 20 years in Hartford, and I've never, if I remember correctly, I've never gotten a grant through Sustainable CT because, you know, it's just like hard to, you know, it's always hard to get the right timing and, you know, are we in the right location? And so, you know, it may seem simple to you, but you know, we just completed the 9 element watershed management based plan, and there is a big gap between implementation and building and construction and the engagement in the community. And so I'm just wondering, I was actually wondering what's available like now. Like, so rather than sort of learn all these tools and register for, and can I register on your website, or do I have to be a municipality? What's available to us now is I gotta admit that's why I'm on the coffee hour. That seems so practical, but yeah, what could you what do you have any insights? Are any of these available now, or are these opening in the future, or did they just close? Um,
So I think uh, I know you said you were directing that question to Sustainable CT, um, but I can share um, a resource um, that could help with sorting through some of the grants since you're in the Hartford area. You know, the Futures Fund is closed for this year, so that's one that,
we were
it,
working on that, and yeah,
okay.
yeah, we worked on that. There was a hitch with the match, and so, but
Yeah, it's a big match.
yeah, and so but you know, once we have plenty, there's always plenty to do. So it's
Hmm.
my impression is there's nothing really going to be open until um October, right? Like that's the
So
cycle, but maybe there's
if
something I don't know about.
you could keep an eye on our funding database, and we keep that up to date with resilience related funding opportunities. Um, so for example, I know that there's some that just opened through DEEP for like resilient forestry practices, and you know,
But
those are
the programs that you all offer
so
are that are
for
really directly related to water, that those won't be open for a while.
So our grant writing assistance program is rolling, so that one is open, but you're not, if the project impact isn't in the coastal boundary, then then you wouldn't be eligible for that one. Same, our planning support program, the impact also has to be in the coastal boundary. So that's why I mentioned the Futures Fund and the Community Impact Fund, because those ones do um, include projects throughout the watershed.
And there was,
Um, our
sorry,
work is just, and it's not to be, um, we would love if we could expand ours through the whole boundary, but ours is very like intensive work with communities, so it's just a capacity limitation.
so and one last question is that I think I jumped on this because my understanding is that Brenda Watson and that there's a Bridgeport, Hartford, um, I don't know, that third community got together.
In the house. We're the third community with that in that project, Mary.
And yeah, so can I thought we were gonna that those were that what that was gonna be discussed, but maybe I misread the invitation. And who's speaking there?
That's me, Kathy Fay. You're
Okay. And
yeah,
where are you? Are you in New Haven?
in New Haven. So the three of us are working on a project, but it's not supported by these funds. It's we got private foundation to support resilience planning for the three for selected neighborhoods in these three municipalities. We're trying to show how it's done.
So
We're trying to
just happens to have the same name as as Sustainable CT program. That's what the confusion is? I thought you guys would be on explaining what you were doing.
Oh, well, not yet. Maybe someday. We're just kicking, all we have so far is our press release that we sent out. But yeah, it's
And what that was well, good to know. I'll contact Brenda directly. But one last question for Sustainable CT. So I just went to the website. So I suppose now that you are more focused on water quality issues, I should register so that I'll be
So
getting
just
it.
to jump in and clarify, so Sustainable CT certifies municipalities. There are some opportunities to get involved as a nonprofit, like through that effort. One example in terms of funding might be the Community Match Fund, which just put in the chat. That's available to any sort of organization and registered community if you meet kind of some of our eligibility requirements. So I might recommend that might be the most helpful resource for you in terms of like your particular scenario, but and
So
all of Sustainable CT is a voluntary certification program for municipalities specifically.
yeah. So I just want to emphasize there are towns that really aren't doing it, right? And it's the nonprofits that need support to motivate the towns. I mean, I just had a meeting yesterday where I just jaw dropped at the lack of willingness to
May I
support.
jump in? I really appreciate your comments, but we have actually 1 minute over. I would like to give space if people have some topical questions on Deb and Sarah's presentation. And if you have questions on Sustainable CT, specifically in partnerships, we welcome them, we encourage them, and we would be thrilled to connect with you offline, and we can put our contact information in the chat to keep that discussion going. But folks, we've got probably time for one more question for our awesome speakers today. Does anyone have one? Is there one in the chat, Lily, that you want to read out?
I don't believe there's any others in the chat. I think we've answered all of them. So if anyone wants to come off mute or has a burning question, feel free. Maybe there's one there now.
Well, we will be sure to share our contact info and provide the slides for anybody to peruse. We were happy to be able to share all of this with you today. And, please reach out if we can be of any help. If you're not sure, we're here to provide guidance.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was great to connect with all of you.
Thank you so much. I hope everyone has a great rest of their day, and we'll send out all of the links in the chat a little bit later. Thank you again.
Thank you all.
Bye, everyone.